I've got to get sober. I've got to figure this out. That's what I kept telling myself. It was 2016. I was 4 hours away from home, at rehab for alcohol for the third time in 3 years. A grown man in my mid-30s with no money, no home, and no future. The worst part for me wasn't the boss I'd made mad when I left, the bills I didn't know how I was going to pay being gone, or even the horrible sickness I was facing once again. I had left behind my firstborn child, a child I didn't even think I was able to have. All I could think about was getting sober, and I did. But that's not where the story ends. Everything didn't just get better because I got sober. It actually became more challenging. I had been drunk or high what seemed like my whole life, and now that wasn't an option. I basically had to learn how to live all over again. Sober. How you doing?
I look like I'm doing. Michael.
It's been almost 6 years since my last trip to rehab. I don't know why I became an alcoholic. I didn't decide when I was a kid that that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. I don't really know for sure if it's a disease, an allergy, or just an addiction that somehow almost half the world is extremely weak against. I wasn't raised around alcoholism, or at least I didn't see it that way. And I don't think I had a traumatic childhood that led me to drink. Sometimes it seems like I just woke up one day and my life was a wreck. That's not really how it happened. I woke up and realized it was mostly because of drinking. And when I tried to cut back, when I tried to change my ways, I realized I couldn't. After several attempts to try to get my life together, things only got worse. I finally hit rock bottom and wound up in rehab for the first time. It was there I started to learn what it was to be an alcoholic, what it meant, or at least what the doctors and studies said it meant. I started to learn about AA and the 12 steps of recovery, as Bill W. sees it. It was also there I found myself surrounded by people going through the same thing as me, or something similar. To hear someone else say it, to hear them share their story and be able to relate to it changed everything for me. Especially when most people don't understand what you're going through. Heck, I didn't even really understand it. That's why I've decided to try and create these series to share what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now in hopes I might relate to someone else. So the first time I went to rehab was tough, but I knew I needed something. What I was doing wasn't working. My wife at the time had left me, and looking back now, I don't blame her. But she took pretty much everything in our house. I'd lost my job and managed to drink up all the money I had left, so my home and truck would be gone soon. I was such a wreck. I drank from sunup to sundown for 13 days straight until my sister, who was a nurse, came by and talked me into going to Mom's house. I didn't know anything about withdrawal or that alcohol withdrawal could be fatal at the time. When I got to Mom's, they took one look at me and started calling rehab centers, but no one would take me because I had no insurance. I ended up going to the emergency room where the doctors told me I was jaundiced and my liver enzymes were extremely high. And the crisis counselor at the hospital called and got me a bed at a government-funded rehab facility. But I had to be there by 2 o'clock that day to take it, and I was still very hesitant to go. I remember my Aunt Candy calling me to tell me she loved me. She had heard I didn't want to go to rehab for 30 days. So she encouraged me by telling me 30 days is like a grain of sand in time. It would be over before I knew it. And she was right. So I went, and I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. And I did end up going 2 more times later on. But I had to start somewhere. Looking back, it was like a grain of sand in time. And I know if I hadn't gone the first time, I wouldn't have been alive to make it to the second time. And I wouldn't have been able to understand what true sobriety was when it finally stuck on the 3rd time. So being this is one of the first videos I'm making about recovery, I just want to say and talk about, I want to make these videos to kind of carry on the tradition of Alcoholics Anonymous, a place that really helped me out once I was ready. I want to carry on the tradition of sharing. People go to AA meetings to share their story in hopes that it can help somebody else. And that's kind of my thought with this, is to combine my passion for filmmaking with my experience with recovery. The world is full of it. I've been around it a lot. I see it more and more every day, close to my home, my family, and far away, in the world, in the news, all that stuff. I know it's like an epidemic of sorts, and I want to give people hope that it's possible to live a sober life, to live a happy, fulfilling life when you're sober. And I want to share stories, share motivation, share positivity, in hopes that, maybe it can help somebody out. So I really appreciate you tuning in. I feel compelled to say that, if you or anybody is struggling with drugs or alcohol, there are places out there that can help. I personally am not very good at being like a one-on-one sponsor. I'm better just sharing my stories the way I do. But if you go to www.aa.org, there's tons and tons of information that can help point you in the right direction. So thanks for watching.